Hey, are you hiring? If you answered yes, let XenTegra Staffing help staff your IT people needs. Head over to XenTegra.com/XenTegra Staffing to find out more. XenTegra Staffing, we can staff your IT people needs. Welcome to another edition of the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton, your source for all things Citrix.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 63 of the Citrix Session. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I've got with me my normal cast of crew again. It's good. I think it's been maybe a few weeks since we were all together. Bill Sutton, Director of Services here at XenTegra, and a longtime Citrix consultant, engineer, seller, all the above. Bill, how's it going?
Going great, Andy. Doing well today. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. It's the first time back in the office in 3 weeks, so I'm excited to be here. We had our management call this morning. Projects, right? We really took a hit last year because people slowed down on projects, but it looks like those are coming back pretty strong in 2021.
Yep, it certainly does look that way. Been keeping the guys really busy with projects, so hope that continues. Looks like it will be in the short term, at least.
Yeah, we're back to hopefully getting stuff done in 2021. Everybody's paralysis from the pandemic is hopefully over, and we'll see where the road goes. Obviously, there should be a ton of Citrix projects going on, and people adopting the technologies,
right?
And things like analytics as part of the technology set as the rebound from the shutdown of the world that we all went through.
Absolutely.
Ben Rogers is a local sales engineer here for Citrix in the Carolinas. Ben, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Andy. It's good to be back. I've missed the last couple of ones due to various holidays and other events. So thank you for having me back. I'm looking forward to today's event.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you. I mean, you always add such good insight and ask good, relevant questions based on your current position as well as your previous roles. It's always good to have you in the conversation. So, guys, we have a little unique thing going on today. We don't have a blog. I was fortunate enough to sit through a presentation from Matthew Varghese a couple weeks ago as a Citrix partner. I don't know if this was customer facing, where Matthew went over Citrix analytics, I think primarily focusing on performance analytics. There's two aspects, right? There's performance and security analytics. And I reached out to Matthew after the presentation I sat through and asked if he would join us because it was really just such great content that he covered. And even though it wasn't a blog, it was a presentation, PowerPoint slides. I thought we'd get Matthew on. Matthew, how's it going?
Really good. Joining you from Florida, so I have no complaints.
Oh man, this is the time of year to be in Florida and specifically South Florida, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I've got big aspirations of having a condo down there near the Citrix office in let's say Pompano Beach area, I love going skiing. I don't mind being cold, but I don't know, December through early March. South Florida has mine.
That is correct. Yeah, the weather's beautiful. I just hope we don't have a bad hurricane season this year, but otherwise can't complain.
Oh, there's a reason why I said December through March.
I know.
Hey, so Matthew, I'm looking at your title here on the slides, Director of Product Management. There's a ton of Director of Product Management, right, at Citrix. And I don't mean that to trivialize your job anyway, but yours is it specifically to analytics, or what product set is under your regime?
That is correct. And by the way, no, that's fine. There are several directors of product management, and product management is such a unique field. So I'm currently just focused on Citrix Analytics, and just by way of introduction, I'm the founding PM for analytics. I'm essentially a big data PM. In the past, I've launched, built and launched several big data products, right? So we had Scout, we had Citrix Insight Services, Smart Check. So in a way, analytics is my baby. So I've gone from being the platform PM for analytics to being the outbound PM, and I'm currently focusing on adoption and growth. So yes, that's what I do. I'm entirely focused on analytics, which is my current baby.
So I'm really curious to ask you this question. I've got two kids getting ready to go off to college, and we're trying to figure out what they're going to study. Did you study big data and analytics in college, or did you just kind of find yourself in this?
I started focusing on big data, especially statistics and business intelligence in business school, interestingly. I'm an electrical engineer by training. I build audio amplifiers. That's one of my hobbies. But I got into data, really started focusing on data when I went to business school 10, 15 years ago. And then I went to business school again a couple of years ago. And these days, business is all about data, right? About applying AI, ML to making business decisions. So if they're going to school, get them to focus on data. I think that's the future, for sure.
Well, it's certainly part of it, if not primarily the main thing. So it used to be that a barrel of oil was the most valuable thing in the world. What's the most valuable thing in the world today? Data, right? About a year ago, I saw an article on that. I was like, oh my gosh, it really has become data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we know you're in Florida. We know you're somehow in college somewhere along the way. You turned your electrical engineering passions into data. Which, if you were an engineer at all to begin with, you were a data guy. You're a math and science guy. How long have you been at Citrix?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. So I joined NetScaler way back in 2003. Wow. I was employee number 20 in Bangalore. And I've had an interesting path to product management, by the way. So I was a tech writer, a reasonably technical tech writer. So to the point where I had my own rack. I used to rack mount my servers, reimage them, run simulations and things of that nature. So I went from being the NetScaler technical writer. A lot of my stuff is still there in the guides if you're interested. And then I moved to product design, where I helped design director back in the day. So as part of the early design team that designed director, and then I moved to product management, where I led the development, or at least expansion of Insight services and so on. So 2003, 2021. Wow, 18 years. I wasn't counting, but thanks for reminding me.
You know what? It is what it is. So at some point in all that, you ended up in Fort Lauderdale, which is interesting. I would have thought that path sounds like a Santa Clara type of path, but how did you end up in Fort Lauderdale with Citrix and not out on the West Coast?
Actually, I was in California. So I was in Bangalore, and then I moved to Santa Clara. Worked there for a few years. Worked on Director and a couple of other products. Then headed up leading Citrix's global publications org. So that's about 50 plus people. Did that for almost 2 years in Santa Clara before I moved to Florida to take up my product management role. So I've been in Florida for about nearly 6 years now. Time flies. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then my idea of what I thought your journey looked like is exactly what it looked like. And it's good to have you. Good to have you down in Florida. The next time I'm down there, which, when the world opens back up, I typically would go to the Florida office or the Raleigh office once a quarter just to meet with salespeople. But next time I'm down there, I'll look you up and let's go have lunch.
Absolutely. Let's do that, Andy. I'd love that.
So let's jump into the topic at hand. I think it's probably going to be a situation where we just tee you up with a question or two, and then you get going. So, what's the justification for Citrix adding the analytics product set to its products? What's the business driver? Why is it important to Citrix customers that analytics is something that Citrix is taking seriously?
Sure, that's a really insightful question, I would say. I mean, although you said, just to kick it off, there are three things that I think all customers will find incredibly valuable about analytics. the first thing is that analytics is a turnkey service. So the reason why you need analytics is because it is turnkey. And the reason I call it turnkey is because there are no agents involved. Almost every other analytics tool out there, monitoring tool out there, requires an agent, but analytics does not. So I'll first go over the 3 points, and then we'll get into the turnkey aspect, because that's what I've seen most customers gravitate towards.
Hey, Matthew,
so it's turnkey. Yes.
Let me do something that I plan to do and I forgot about doing. So I met with one of Ben's clients this morning to talk about mobile device management. They didn't really want to talk about MAM, and I was on the call with them for about 15 minutes, and they recently purchased Citrix Workspace service. And we got to the end of that 15 or 20 minute conversation with them, and I said to them, I'm surprised that you didn't bring up analytics. I know that's a big part of the reason why you want to go to the Workspace service. And their response was they didn't really think about analytics as it related to mobile device management. And my response to that is, you should think analytics for everything you do going forward. You won't get your solution. You won't get what you paid for. You won't get what you're trying to get from the product if you don't think about what's the data associated with this product that I'm buying and how can I leverage it to improve things. I just want to share that. Awesome.
So first of all, let me tell you how grateful I am for to you for having said that. That has been our vision from day one, and it continues to be. Like you said, data is the currency of the future, and the thing that we've been very mindful about with analytics is the purity and the and the simplicity of the data, right? So with analytics, we did not. So like I said, I've been a big data PM for a while, so I pretty much know how every Citrix product is wired, how telemetry works for every one of them, and so on and so forth, and the data models for every product. With analytics, we ended up hiring and building a data science team to develop at the beginning a very clean data source. So we did not repurpose, or we have not repurposed existing data sources like log files, crash dumps, core dumps, and all of that stuff for analytics. Analytics uses a proprietary data feed that is extremely light, and it is encrypted at flight and at rest. And this data feed is encrypted, so it's encrypted, and also we simply don't provide access to it via API, because there's always chances of third parties using the data for uses that are unforeseen. So the data itself is very unique. The data is very clean, and it is perfectly applicable to different data science scenarios. And what I mean by that is, when you repurpose logs for analytics, it's a disaster waiting to happen, because logs, as we know, despite the fact that they are structured, require a lot of cleaning up before they can be used in any meaningful way. And they're compute intensive, they're memory intensive. So the time to value goes up. But with analytics, what we did was we built a telemetry feed, which again encrypted in flight and at rest, which is extremely light and easy for a machine learning model to consume. So the time taken by our machine learning models to provide value to our customers is a fraction of what it usually takes other products to do. So, which almost coincides with my second point that I was going to make. The first being, it's turnkey, doesn't require any agents. But the second part is really the data lends itself really well to intelligent analytics. So if you want to do ML, you want to do AI, you get all those benefits within the product itself. But if you wanted to export it, right, you wanted to download the data and use it, on your own, that's possible too. So we developed the data model, keeping data scientists and Citrix administrators in mind.
Yeah, because the whole point of data is to do something with it, right? Do something purposeful with it.
Correct. Yep. So actionable insights. I mean, that's.
Let me
Sorry,
pause
go
you
ahead,
real quick. Bill Sutton, I don't know if you have anything you want to ask at this point, but I have to assume maybe you're chomping at the bit to ask something. Any thoughts, comments, interjections here?
No, I was going to ask kind of the question that you asked, which was, how does analytics benefit customers? And I think Matthew's addressed a lot of that, but I really am looking forward to hearing more.
So Ben Rogers, real quick, give you a chance to chime in here. Ben's been talking with me a lot about analytics and his customers. Ben, anything you want to bring up at this point?
So Matthew, I would like to interject a thought here and would like to get your response to it. I see analytics being really good for Citrix customers, but there's a lot of power in this engine and just some of the things you've said, that this is not just a regurgitation of logs and us trying to do correlation with logs. This is data science behind this. Is there a point that we can take these products and apply them to other venues than just Citrix venues? Or are we ever going to be to a point where instead of it being a Citrix customer conversation, it can be a greenfield conversation and don't necessarily have to have the Citrix service involved in it? Because again, to your point, it is a, excuse the term, powerful, agile, sexy platform. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this platform. And I just see when I'm talking to customers that Citrix is such a pivotal part of their arsenal, but it doesn't cover 100% of their arsenal, where I could see this product being able to do more across the enterprise.
I'm really happy with the way you put that, Ben. So first of all, yes, that is the goal. The goal is to make Citrix Analytics that single pane of glass for all Citrix customers, but we are also constantly looking at ways to enrich that data with data from other components within the environment. So I'm picking that word very carefully because the moment you start supporting non-Citrix products, there are a lot of legal and compliance issues that come in that we need to deal with. So we've been very careful about how we enrich our data feed. So one example, is location data. So in the EU, there are some limitations around what kind of location data you can collect on a per user basis. So we've got to be very careful about enrichment of the data itself. And to your point, we made a very conscious effort to update our public documentation with every single data point that we collect. So although it's not legally mandated, we just took it upon ourselves to be very transparent with our customers and our partners. So if you go to documentation today, there is an entire page that tells you, here are the products that we get data from, here are the data points that we collect. Now, coming back to your point, though, you made a very interesting observation, which is around logs and correlations. Now, the problem that we've noticed with logs is sometimes it's the timing can be a little off. And what I mean by that is, logs being voluminous and being tracked in different places. By the time the logs are registered in analytics, there might be a significant time gap. So you might miss out, insights. So analytics from the beginning has been designed to be a real-time system, or at least close to real-time. So for most of our data sources, first of all, because there's no agent, this is not a pull mechanism. So we don't have an agent sitting on the endpoint device that is constantly hoovering up information. Instead, data gets sent to us when an end user does something, which is very different from passive logging, right? In logging, the user keeps doing something, the logs get generated, then the logs might get pulled and sent to analytics. That does not happen with analytics. Instead, when the end user does something, in almost real time, an event gets sent to Citrix Analytics. And that event gets analyzed almost in real time by the machine learning algorithms. We spent a few days doing baselining at the beginning, but once we find an anomaly in behavior or find an anomaly in a certain scenario, we immediately highlight it in the UI, which again goes back to point number 2, which I was trying to make, which is the data is the instrumentation has been done from a like what Andy said, from a insights point of view. So every insight that we provide is actionable. So because of that focus, when you go to analytics, whether it is security or analytics or performance analytics, we focus on an insight. And for performance analytics, the insight is really around, is my user doing well at this point in time? And if not, what is hindering my user? So it all goes back to user productivity. With people working remotely, we are all concerned about how productive our users are. Similarly, with security, the one insight that we have anchored the product around is this user's behavior posing a threat to my environment, right? So we collect, the data model has been optimized around these two use cases. And when we find an anomaly, we highlight it in the UI almost in real time. So the admin can take action on, action to mitigate that scenario. Well, but I know it's a fairly roundabout answer to your question, Ben, but I think the point I was really trying to make is that the data has been optimized for specific use cases, and it is highly actionable. And as you said, the more we can enrich the data, the more actionable the insights become. But we are being very mindful about what extra data we add to enrich the Citrix data.
So, Matthew, do you foresee a day where the customer gets to choose whether that data gets opened up and consumable by other technologies, or will it always be kind of closed to the Citrix world to keep from misuse of the data?
There are two ways of looking at it, Andy. It's something that we've honestly struggled with, or even actively thought about, from day one. So today, we are actively partnering with other vendors like Splunk and Microsoft to not just ingest data feeds from them, but also send our insights back to them, right? So there is the Splunk integration where we send a threat intel feed to Splunk. So the threat intel feed is basically event. We don't send raw data. We send process data to Splunk. So then, vendors can then take that data, combine it with existing data that they already have to build, really good dashboards. Similarly, we have, we have a collaboration with Microsoft, or a partnership with Microsoft, where we get a threat intel feed from Microsoft and surface it in the security analytics UI as well. So to that extent, the goal is to constantly open up partnerships with other vendors and send them data. The one thing we are holding back on is sending all the raw data because there are legal implications about it. But I'm sure once we figure out a safe and a legally approved medium, we will go at it with a lot of, I would say, vigor and passion, right? So that is definitely on the table, and that is why we've kept our data model open, right? It's all published. Everyone can see it, read it. So partners like y'all can come back to us with feedback on, hey, you guys seem to be capturing this, but what about this? Because that'll help us provide value-added services back to our customers. So that is definitely our path forward.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, we've had a great conversation here. Based on what you've heard us ask you and talk about, let's jump into, and keep in mind, people can't see the slides, but let's jump into the slides and cover the topics that you have that kind of align with the logic and conversation you've heard from Bill, Ben, and I to this point.
Absolutely. So let's start with performance, because that is one of the services which is, I would say, almost rapid to deploy. So if you're a Citrix Cloud customer, then, or especially a virtual apps and desktop service customer, then I would say start with performance analytics. And the reason I say that is, even if you've not started using virtual apps and desktop service yet, you're in the process of moving from on-prem to virtual apps and desktop service, it is a good idea to turn on analytics because it helps you baseline and then compare progress over time. And Matthew,
real quick on this topic, if people are doing kind kind of a hybrid type thing where they're still using local, I'll call it NetScalers because that's where your background is, right? Local ADCs to route their ICA traffic. We can still get that data up into analytics. We don't have to be 100% cloud at this point, right?
That is, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's absolutely right. So analytics is a cloud service, but we support all flavors of Citrix deployments. But needless to say, of course, there are some system requirements that need to be in place. But otherwise, for most part, it works flawlessly. So even if you're hybrid, no problem. You can add your on-prem sites, your on-prem gateway instances to analytics and see all the data. Now that leads to a very interesting point though, and I'm glad you brought it up. Now analytics has a proprietary algorithm called user ID correlation. Now because we are Citrix, no surprises, we should be able to do that, right? So what we do is, although analytics gets data from multiple different data sources, and this is a question that often comes up. Customers are like, hey, are you simply doing a data dump of director? And I'm like, no, we are not pulling director data. We are not pulling director data as it is. Remember, this is a brand new telemetry feed that was developed just for analytics. So what user ID correlation entails is we pull data, we get data from multiple different data sources, Citrix data sources, but we are able to identify a unique user across these different sources, right? So let's say, Andy, you log in today, you're fronted by a NetScaler gateway, and then you start your virtual apps and desktop session, 2 data sources, right? So we know about your login from gateway, and then we get all your session information from Director and Workspace apps. So 3 sources actually. We can correlate your behavior across those 3 sources in analytics, right? Now that's another huge advantage. So most other vendors cannot do it because they can't do user ID correlation. But what we do in analytics from the word go is, because we are constantly looking at how the user is behaving, we have to get a 360-degree view of that user, and that comes from the different Citrix products. Now, once that user ID correlation happens, you will see the user as a discovered user in analytics. And that's where all the magic starts, right? So as an administrator or as a partner, you can now go into the UI and observe the user behavior. You can pick a specific user and observe their behavior over a period of time. And that is what makes it so powerful to do proactive troubleshooting, right? So let's say, a user is having problems. And when I say proactive, you should be reaching out to the user even before they call you up, right? Or raise a support ticket. So with analytics, what you can do is you can go to performance, get a real-time feed of what the user's experience is at any given point in time, drill down, troubleshoot, and look at the data across all of these products. You can say, okay, this employee logged in at 9 a.m. through Gateway, so login went off fine, so no problems there. Their session started a few minutes later, so, session start time is already a few minutes. That's not good. So let's drill down into the logon time and see what's causing the logon to take so much time. Oh, it's a GPO. Great. Now I know the GPO is too big. Let me go troubleshoot, fix it. So long story short, because we're able to do user ID correlation and because we're able to correlate data across multiple different Citrix data sources, and because the data is extremely light, we can do this in close to real time. That's incredible value to the customer right there, right? So they don't have to do the heavy lifting of going to the ADM console, then to Director, then trying to make sense of what's really going on. We get rid of all that complexity. Single pane of glass, super simple, easy to use.
So Matthew, let me tell you a quick story. My first job as a systems administrator, I was on the server side of things, but Citrix was one of my products because I was a server guy, which, fast forward to 2021, and when I hear server guys talking about Citrix, I realize that the organization doesn't really understand where Citrix fits in the IT realm. It's really more of an end-user compute desktop application with support of the server guys. But long story short, when I first started that job, my boss handed me an Excel spreadsheet and said, "This is what you do every day," and it was to go into each of our servers and review the Windows logs. I did that for about a week, and then I said, "I'm not doing this anymore. anymore. This doesn't make any sense. That's the problem with the old way of looking at data, right? It really isn't relevant. It isn't real time. It isn't easy to consume. What this does fixes all of that.
Yep. That is absolutely right. And we did a lot of user research before we launched performance analytics and security. Just by way of numbers, I think between me and the other PMs, we probably have spoken to 400, 500 customers at this point, right? It's an incredible amount of work to do, and just to talk to every customer and empathize with them, right? I mean, these are all just empathy sessions where you talk to them and say, hey, what's your problem today? And what would your ideal solution look like? And those sessions reveal stories like what you just said, Andy. A lot of our customers, a lot of our users, and when I say our users, I'm talking about the administrators who are sitting there and doing all this heavy lifting. They would rather be doing something more strategic. That's what they all said across the board. They're like, hey, help me find and fix issues before they happen, and help me provide true value to my users. Because guess what? I'm spending all my time running these PowerShells, PowerShell commandlets. I'm spending all my time doing, log analysis when I could be better off actually addressing the needs of the business. So that is why with performance, if you, when you look at the UI, we've tried to keep things extremely simple, because what we learned from all that research is that dashboard fatigue is a thing, right? People end up staring at dashboards almost all day, and there's always a chance for human errors. So that's why when we built the correlation module, in fact, it went live recently. So there's this feature called black hole machines. And basically a black hole machine is a machine that's not been able to serve at least 4 sessions concurrently or in succession, right? It's failed to launch sessions 4 times in a row. So first of all, we don't wait for the admin to make that analysis. We figure that out and highlight it in the UI. So the admin now knows, okay, so I've got half a dozen black hole machines. Let's see what's going on. There, what we do is, rather than showing them 10 different charts and reports, we have a composite that it's just like your stock. One of your, I mean, if you are into stocks, and if you use tools like say Yahoo Finance or FinViz, you'll see that in addition to the price chart, you also have the volume chart at the bottom, right? So you can correlate price movements with trading volume. We did the exact same thing with analytics. So when you go into the machine view, it shows you machine statistics like CPU and memory usage. But at the bottom, we show you the user experience score at that exact instance. So now you can look at the two of them together, right? You don't have to go to director, look at CPU memory, then move to analytics to see the user experience score. We just give you one composite. You can look at who those users were. You can see what you can pick your time windows and all of that good stuff. So going back to what Andy said, I think our focus has constantly been to help our administrators help their users more effectively, right? Help our administrators focus on the strategic aspects of their job and not on tactical things like running scripts and looking at logs. And look, I wouldn't say that we are the perfect solution and we are there. We have a long way to go. I'll be humble about that, but I'm incredibly proud of what my team's been able to achieve, in the short period of time. It's probably been a year and a half.
You should be, Matthew. I'll give you an example of how performance analytics has helped Citrix in a real-world scenario. I'm in the middle of a project right now with a customer that's bringing up a voice-over IP project, and they've had dismal performance with this. And so what we did was we started a performance trial for them, and right off the bat, what we saw was long login scripts, long login profiles. And we started digging into the profiles, and what we discovered is that everybody had their PST buried in their profile, and that was slowing their login times down. Yeah, so when we were able to extract that and put that in a different location, their login times just started banging away, and the customer regained confidence back in our project and the product. And so you're exactly right, and it was very, very quickly to identify. We got in, we saw poor user experience. We went to one of the users, saw what the problem was, and then we went to a set of users and saw that problem across all those users, and we knew that we were on the right track. So I definitely thank you for your work, and I can tell you that it's working in the field.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Ben.
So guys,
you made my day.
Well, here's what I love about that conversation. We're now using modern day solutions to answer questions that honestly make me mad that we are still talking about companies that have long login time user experience issues. It's 2021. I've been struggling with why people struggle with that since the late 90s. If you're making your customers struggle through long login times just to launch an app or a desktop, give me a call. We'll use the modern tools to figure out what's causing that. But man, we should have fixed that a long time ago. And things like FS Logics have been massive things to help with that. I just struggle with the fact that users, that basic measurement of our success is still a common problem. That drives me nuts. But I think it's the reality, and now we got a different way to measure it and go attack it.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that, Andy. We've been fighting those battles for a long time. I've had to do it as well. And a tool like this is imperative for customers to leverage it to help, or partners to leverage it to help us identify these problems and newer problems from a performance perspective, but also help better secure these solutions and bubble up the anomalies that occur when they do and take action on them.
And the best part, and this is what a lot of these conversations yield, right? I mean, talking to our partners, talking to customers. So there are three really cool features that are in the horizon. The first one is action. So with security analytics today, you can take actions, right? So you can set up policies to take actions on people who are posing a threat to the environment. And people don't usually have malicious intent; they're just being stupid, right? I mean, for lack of a better word. So we are planning to bring that same functionality to performance as well. So when we notice performance issues, with a user, we're going to have actions that the administrator can configure. But for me, that has a tremendous, opportunity. That gives us a tremendous opportunity to partner, more deeply with our partners, right? It helps us. It gives our partners an opportunity to provide value-added services. So that's one feature. The other one, interestingly, is ServiceNow integration. That's another thing that's coming. So hopefully, we should be able to, set up policies in analytics, send it to ServiceNow. You can build your entire workflows there. And the last one is, Splunk integration. So today, because of the nature of the product, we decided to start with Splunk integration for security. But going forward, we're going to have Splunk integration for performance as well. So then guess what? A lot of these insights that are being generated in performance can be sent to Splunk, right? And then that's where you can build out your master dashboards. Because we are actively rethinking the concept of active use, right? I mean, as a SaaS product, we live and die for active use. But when you have a product like analytics, although we call it analytics, in reality, security analytics is a security control, right? You set it, forget it, it just does its job, right? Performance is pretty much headed the same way, unless you want to do some detailed troubleshooting, you want to use it as a daily dashboard. It's phenomenal, but let's be honest. I mean, customers have lots of dashboards to go to, but ultimately, where we'd like to land is in a happy medium between being a daily dashboard and being this control, right? So you set everything up. It's automatically, it's just like personal finance, right? You set up all your rules. The moment your paycheck hits, your money is sent off to all the right accounts, and you're a happy camper. I mean, if you've got your finances all sorted out, right? We'd like to do the same with analytics as well, and really give our partners this opportunity for better integrations, right? To better integrating Citrix into different other workflows.
Hey, Matthew, I'll take a quick, brief moment to do a little commercial. If someone's out there listening that would like this integration with ServiceNow, please reach out to us. That's something we're ramping up rapidly on our ServiceNow capabilities, and which we already have in-house, but we're very, very interested in what Citrix plans to do with ServiceNow integrations at the Workspace app level, as well as with the analytics level, which I didn't really think about until Matthew just started bringing them up. But that's an area of XenTegra we really want to grow, because that's where we see the most value for what we can bring to our customers by doing that. In addition to that, Matthew, if you have someone over at Splunk that you can get me in touch with, they won't let us be a partner. Like, we want to be a Splunk partner because we know what Citrix is doing with them. If you have a connection over there you can introduce me to that can help elevate us in this world of Splunk, that would be excellent.
Absolutely. Will do, Andy.
I hate to have to beg a company to let somebody be a partner, but I'll beg if I have to. Okay. Well, look,
I like that spirit.
We got about 10 minutes left before we have to let our listeners go. Matthew, what while you've got, hundreds, maybe thousands of Citrix admins and IT managers, and hopefully, some Citrix salespeople out there listening, what do you want them to know about what it is you're working on over there?
So I think overall the one thing that I would say is we are always open to feedback. If you use analytics already, send us your feedback. If you have not used it, there's a free 60-day no questions asked trial. It just takes a mouse click to start an analytics trial. It gets auto provisioned and so on. Go try it out, right? Give it a spin, try it out, and look, we are not going to hound you. Just try it out and see how it works. That said, I think the one thing we want our users to know, we want our admins to know, is that we are genuinely keen on helping you, focus on strategic work, right? So we are actively adding features to the product that will help you in your day-to-day, right? So like I mentioned, some of the key features that are coming in, right? ServiceNow integration, Splunk integration, actions. And some of the features that are also being added is a lot of infrastructure monitoring and a lot of deeper latency troubleshooting, right? Now let's look at latency troubleshooting real quick. Most of your users are working remotely. You want to know how they, what their performance is and what's causing performance bottlenecks.
Hey, Matthew.
So unlike with Director, yes.
Matthew, before you go into that, let's talk about that real quick, because people are working from all kinds of crazy places these days. I hope they go back in the office at least part-time between now and the end of 2021. But what I struggle with on people in this topic, I talk to a customer about, user experience and network and how that's important. And they talk to me about bandwidth. Guys, I need everybody listening here. Bandwidth's important. Packet loss is important, but we've kind of solved the bandwidth thing to a large degree, and packet loss on most networks, is kind of minimal these days. But what Matthew's talking about here around latency is your enemy. We need this data to go attack that. Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, no, I'm thanks for that, because here's the thing, right? When you today there are two places where you can get that information, right? But there are two different places. You can either get it from ADM or you can get it from Director. Now, Director has a single latency number, so Director doesn't break down the latency numbers for you. So that is what we tried. That's what we fixed with analytics. With analytics, we get data from Gateway. We get data from the Workspace app, and we get data from Director. We combine them, and then we give you a breakup of the latency number. So we show you what the WAN latency is, what the host delay is, what the data center latency is. Now, the good news is we are planning to add 6 to 7 more data points just on latency. So you're going to get this really rich readout of the latency breakdown. Hold your breath. It's going to be per user, right? Right from the time somebody logs on, you're going to see what their latency counts are. So we've already done that for logon duration. So today, when you go to logon duration, I think there are about 6 to 7 metrics per user where you can see what's causing their logon delays. We are going to do the same with latency. So currently, we've taken it from 1 in director to 3 in performance analytics. We're probably going to add half a dozen more in performance. So you're going to get at least 9 to 10 different latency numbers in performance. I don't remember them off the top of my head. Been more than happy to send more details to Andy. But we do realize that administrators like to troubleshoot. So in addition to this high-level, beautiful view telling you where your users are struggling, we also allow you to drill down and figure out. So that's one thing. So if you want to do more latency, more latency-related troubleshooting, analytics is a great place. The other beautiful thing is we can help you do location-based troubleshooting. So you can pick your location. It could be a country. It could be a city. You can pick your location and see how people are faring across these different locations. You can also slice and dice by delivery group and site, which is beautiful. And the kicker, the most important thing there is you can also slice and dice by people on internal networks versus external networks. Right? So if you suspect that someone's having a bad day because they're on an external network, you can prove your hypothesis by just going to analytics, slice and dice by internal versus external. And if you find that user in an external network, you got your answer right there, right? So a lot of these features are already in. The only thing that's coming soon is the expanded latency count numbers, and of course, infrastructure monitoring. So we're going to be adding a lot more infrastructure monitoring, visualizations in the product, but we're going to try and keep it as simple as possible at the outset, and then you can drill down and get to the raw data.
Yeah, and that's something that I've noticed a little bit in your presentation here. Pictures, right? Pictures where we can not only present data, but we can also use pictures to gain people's interest in their focus, right? That's one of the beautiful things about the modern day of analytics, right? Matthew, tell me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of your job is not only getting the data, but getting it in such a way and presenting to people that it's impactful, and it's not like me 20 years ago looking at logs, which, by the way, the security logs, like I looked at some of the main logs, app logs, system logs, the security logs, they were so ugly I didn't even bother to look at them after a while, but I knew I needed to.
I know we are almost out of time here. I'll just slide in 2 more things, right? One of them is the reporting feature. So today in performance analytics, both security and performance, you can create your own reports. And so performance especially can produce a beautiful PDF. So you can pick your charts and reports. It produces a beautiful PDF. You can download it, share it with people who need those kind of reports. So that is one feature, and we are constantly improving it. We also have a new feature which is in limited availability right now, which is end user alerts. So we can actually alert end users when we notice something, wrong in their environment, telling them, hey, we care about you. We know something's wrong with your environment. We're actively working to fix it. So there is that feature too. Andy, looks like I owe you a bunch of content. So as I speak, I'm making a note of things that I need to blog about. But absolutely, thanks for doing this. But I will make sure that there are some blog posts out there on these features. Well,
here's what you owe us and our listeners: some blogs, either from you or some of the people on your team, and you owe us some more podcasts. Right? I'd love to have you on. This is a great conversation. I don't know that we got as deep as we really wanted to, but we didn't. But we definitely set the stage for why it's important and why people need to be exploring and interested and curious about analytics in general in IT, but specifically what Citrix is doing to invest. Because I'm going to give kudos here. Citrix, from a technology perspective, is investing in this in a big way, and their customers should be excited and appreciative of this.
Thanks for the opportunity, Andy.
So before we let you go, let's give Ben the mic first this time. Ben, did we do anything other than tweak or encourage more curiosity, or is there certain topics that we didn't cover, details why you got Matthew in the bullseye? Do you want anything else you want to cover?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing I would address is to the systems administrators out there that are listening. Take a look at performance analytics. I have firsthand seen where this has identified problems very quickly, and I kind of view this as being a potential tool that could be in the SOC. It could be one of the main screens that you're looking at, because what happens is that support phone rings and a problem's identified. And the first thing that would always go through my head is, I wonder how many people are being affected by this, or how many people are sitting tight waiting for a message from IT and not reporting it. And this tool could really help you with that. And also just identifying problems. Somebody comes in and something just feels and smells weird, and you start looking at this, and then you're very easily can figure out what's going on and then attack it. So to the system admins, ask your Citrix representatives to do a demo of performance analytics for you. It's good stuff.
And make sure your bosses get a chance to see that. It's one thing to get the admin, and Ben, you're absolutely right. But your bosses and your bosses' bosses, those are the ones that should light up when they see what's available to them that they probably don't know. Bill Sutton, any talking points you want to make sure we cover before we leave this?
Well, yeah, it's really just one. So I've been very quiet on this call because, to be honest with you, I've not really been all that familiar with the analytics platform that Citrix offers. I knew it was there. I saw the presentations at Synergy years ago when we were able to go to Synergy, but I haven't really seen it live, and I was unable to attend Matthew's webinar when he had it a few weeks ago. So my question really is kind of a newbie question, and that is, how do customers get access to this? What flavors of Citrix Cloud come with this, if any? Can you elaborate a little bit on that, Matthew?
Absolutely. So so anybody with Citrix virtual apps and desktop service can use analytics, but it's an add-on, so they have to buy it, purchase it separately.
Right.
At the same time, if they have other components like Workspace app and Gateway with ADM, then they can add those as additional data sources as well. But plain vanilla, anybody with virtual apps and desktop service, or anybody with virtual apps and desktops on-prem, but certain versions of the components, they should all be able to use performance analytics. Security supports almost every Citrix product. It supports virtual apps and desktops, Gateway, endpoint management, and content collab.
Right. Okay.
And it's the system requirements are all available in our documentation site.
Sure.
But performance is only for CVAD at this point.
Okay. Good stuff.
All right, guys. Well, we are out of time. We got plenty to cover left. Matthew, we'll have you back on. If you do a blog, let us know. I'll keep an eye out for them. I'll be looking for analytics related blogs. But thank you very much for joining us. And I'm just like Bill. I got it when Citrix started talking analytics. I saw some demos at Synergy. To be frank, it wasn't extremely sexy. It's gotten much more sexier. One of my sales engineers, Randy Price, he did a demo for a customer the other day, and I was excited as the customer was to see how far this has come. Congratulations for what you're doing, and let's go do some more.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I agree.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, folks. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton. A special thanks to our guest for attending today's podcast. Podcast produced by Pete Downing. For any input, or if you'd like to be a part of our podcast, please email us at info@XenTegra.com. Please head over to XenTegra.com/podcast to listen to all podcasts in this series. This podcast is copyrighted by XenTegra LLC.